guys, this is Dave with Audio In. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Dunu Falcon Ultra. Of course, this is a revision of the Falcon Pro that was released back in 2021, and I remember anticipating that release a lot because the Falcon Pro implemented the same Eclipse driver technology that was used in the Zen, which of course is a much more expensive IEM, but now Dunu was going to make that same technology and available in a much less expensive IEM. And it turned out to be a great IEM for its price. As a matter of fact, the Falcon Pro was one of my top dynamic driver IEMs at the time. So now we have the brand new Falcon Ultra, which brings the second generation of the Eclipse driver technology. But here's the thing, the $200 to $300 market looks very different now than it did in 2021, which means consumer expectations are even higher. So given the new market landscape, where does the Falcon Ultra land in terms of overall performance and value when compared to the competition? Well, hopefully I can answer that question. But first, let's go over the price, specifications, and design. Also, if you are interested in watching the full unboxing, I'll make sure and leave a link in the description. The Falcon Ultra comes in at $239, and as I had just mentioned, it has a single dynamic driver configuration, which utilizes Dunu's second generation Eclipse driver technology. And it's the same driver technology used in the Zen Pro, which I do own, and I still listen to it all the time. I love that IEM. The Falcon Ultra comes with two different swappable tuning nozzles. One is made out of stainless steel, the other is gold-plated brass. They do affect the tuning slightly, but not much, and I will cover that in greater detail in the sound section of the review. It has a sensitivity of 108 dBs and an impedance of 16 ohms, so it's going to be fairly easy to drive. Of course, Dunu always includes excellent accessories. It comes with a great new, larger case, and if you compare it side by side with the older blue case, you can definitely get an idea of how much larger the new one is. Of course, it has a very nice assortment of tips and other accessories. It also comes with the DU-W02 modular cable. It includes a switchable 3.5 and 4.4 balanced termination. As for the build, the shell structure itself is constructed using cast steel. Then the shape is refined further using CNC machining. They then finish it with this beautiful metallic Klein blue coating, which brings us to the design. Now, pictures, in my opinion, don't really do this color justice. Again, I'll try to get some good B-roll in the background and some good lighting so you can see how beautiful this color really is. It's probably one of my favorite IEM colors and designs. For sure my favorite in the $200 to $300 price range. It's absolutely beautiful. And as for comfort and fit, I had no issues at all with discomfort, and using the included large S&S tips, I was able to achieve an excellent fit and sill. And while they do have a little weight to them, they didn't feel heavy in my ears at all. And as IEMs go, I would consider these to be among some of the most comfortable that I've tried. Okay, let's talk about the sound of the Falcon Ultra. So of course we have the two different tuning nozzles, and both of them have a V-shape signature, and they don't really sound that different below 1K. The lower mids and bass sound nearly identical as far as their tuning. The main differences being in the upper mids and treble. The gold-plated brass nozzle gives you a slightly smoother mid-range and treble presentation, while the stainless steel nozzle offers a more forward mid-range and treble presentation. So the stainless steel nozzle is going to give you a little more emphasis on vocals. And because the upper mids and treble are slightly reduced with the gold-plated brass nozzle, that's going to put a little more emphasis on the bass. But again, in regards to their general signature, they both fall into the V-shape category. Now, of the two nozzles, the stainless steel seemed to suit my taste a little better. It was a little more balanced overall. It had just a more natural mid-range presentation, in my opinion. But if we break things down a little further, starting with the bass it does have a more mid-bass focused tuning. And while it definitely does have sub-bass presence, the Falcon Ultra's most prominent bass characteristic is, without a doubt, its dynamic, slam, and impact. And it also delivers that nice visceral sensation that you hope to get with a dynamic driver. I do wish it had just a little more sub-bass presence to help reinforce the rest of the bass frequencies, but honestly, as sub-bass roll-off goes, it's really not that bad with the Ultra. And it does have nice amounts of sub-bass rumble. Again, I just wish it had a tad bit more. As for the transition from the mid-bass, it does have a fairly significant amount of warmth and could use just a little more control. So while there is undoubtedly bass bleed into the lower mids, at the same time, it also brings a nice amount of richness and note weight to vocals and some instruments. And then as you move out of the lower mids, the rest of the mid-range has really good clarity, and that clarity carries through all the way through the upper mids and into the lower treble. But the characteristic that stood out to me the most about the mid-range was how natural vocals and instruments sounded for it having this type of tuning approach. As a matter of fact, of all of the V-shape style tuned IEMs in this price range, the Falcon Ultra probably has the most natural instrument presentation that I've ever heard. And that was with both tuning nozzles. And again, I do prefer the overall vocal and instrument presentation of the stainless nozzle. But again, even with the reduced upper mid-range and more bass dominant signature of the brass nozzle, somehow Dunu managed to keep the vocal and instrument presentation from being overpowered or sounding overly recessed. And then moving into the treble, like the mids, it does have a somewhat smoother presentation, but still maintains really nice amounts of energy as to keep it from being overpowered by the extra mid-bass and lower mid presence. Cymbals have really nice intensity and power, but never sound harsh or peaky. And that nice natural characteristic that stood out to me in the upper mids carries through. Again, it carries through into that treble as well. And there is also adequate upper treble presence, although I do wish it had just a little bit more, because while it does give you decent amounts of air and sparkle, it doesn't quite have the micro details I would have liked to hear. And then finally, in regards to its technical performance, I would say in terms of detail and micro detail retrieval, it is above average, but still not the best in its price bracket. As far as the soundstage, it's about average width for an IEM. Imaging and instrument separation is also very good. Instruments have good focus, and they're easy to place within the sound field. Now, as far as where the Falcon Ultra stands in terms of competition, I compared it to, I think it was 8 or 9 other IEMs priced from $179 all the way up to $320. And I'll just go ahead and list them. I do have some on the table, but it was the Blessing 3, Yume Ultra, Yume 2, Winter Ultra, Performer 5, Kara, the Dunu Talus, and the Geekwold GK100. Now, of course, the Blessing 3 is the most expensive of those, and it comes in at $320. And the least expensive are the Kara and the GK100. I think those are around $180. And again, the Falcon Ultra comes in at $239. And the only reason I threw the Blessing 3 in there was because while it is on the higher end of the price spectrum, it also has the best sonic performance, in my opinion, in this price range. And I use it kind of as my reference for IEMs in the $200 to $300 price range. And then the highest performing IEMs on the low end of the price range are the Performer 5 and the Tangem Kara. And those are the two IEMs I think the Falcon Ultra comes the closest to in terms of overall performance. Although I would say the Performer 5 and Kara do have a cleaner presentation in terms of tuning, but in terms of technical performance, it's about on par with those two. But here's the thing, and I've talked about this in my other reviews. I think I actually talked about this in my IE600 review. And I had mentioned that while IEMs with V-shaped tunings aren't necessarily my first choice, I do love certain types of V-shaped tunings if they're done well. And sometimes an IEM catches me off guard. Maybe it doesn't fit my exact tuning preference, or maybe it doesn't have excellent technicalities, but what it does have is an ability to engage me, a quality or a characteristic that goes beyond tuning and technical performance. And the Falcon Ultra does that for me, and I would attribute that primarily to its tuning, but beyond that, and maybe it has something to do with the Eclipse driver, but its dynamics and its overall physicality and richness in its presentation, it's unique, and you don't typically hear that very often in this price range. And again, despite it not technically being a high-performing IEM by my normal metrics or standards, the Falcon Ultra still gives me a very engaging listening experience and allowed me to connect with the music on a level I would normally expect from a higher performing IEM. And I realize this tuning may not be for everyone, and if you want an IEM with a cleaner presentation and a more mature tuning, then maybe something like the Performer 5 or Tanch Gymkhana might suit your taste better. But if you do like to change things up a little bit like me and have some variety in your collection, and occasionally want to reach for something a little less typical and something that offers a more fun and engaging experience, but still sounds natural, it does have good technicalities, then maybe the Falcon Ultra might be a good option for you. But for me personally, I absolutely love it, and it may just be my new favorite dynamic driver IEM under $300. And again, when you look at the package as a whole, with the new case, the tuning nozzles, the great cable with the interchangeable terminations, overall, this is an absolute great package from Dunu. If you're looking for something a little bit different, I highly recommend the Dunu Falcon Ultra. So that concludes my review of the Dunu Falcon Ultra. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you like my content, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would please like this video, please share this video. I hope you have an awesome day.